And good Tuesday, well, noon. I was about to say good Tuesday morning to you. Good Tuesday morning, perhaps somewhere. Good Tuesday afternoon in other places. We've got football to talk about, Big Ten football and beyond. I am Chris Landry. We're going to take you through the world of the Big Ten here this hour and ACC the next hour. But as we always like to say, we're game to talk all football. We're going to focus a lot, at least I will, on the game action and the information of what's going on around the conference. Um, and we're going to go obviously through everything in detail, but we certainly want to invite you to join us in the chat room. So that's what we ask you to do. We do this show live for this very reason, so that we can be a part of your viewing, a part of your college football interests, and kind of see where you want to go with topics. So we're right here for you, right here with you, as far as everything that's going on around the league. So we've got a number of things we're going to get to, but first of all, I want to tell you how you can find us. I know a lot of you have already found us. Appreciate it. We need your help. We want to continue to do this show. We want to continue to do all the shows. We need to get, the analytics, the algorithms, so where they are sellable, where we can reach out and we can do positive things and grow this. So we'd like you to ask you to do a couple of things. If you're listening to this in podcast form, um, and how do you do that? Sign up for Big Ten football and beyond. Very simple. Go there, sign up for Big Ten football and beyond, and that'll get you. Uh, it'll get you notification, and you can listen to this podcast when it drops. Now it's going to drop later today into the morning. Excuse me, it'll drop later this afternoon as I'm doing it live at 12 noon Central. Probably within a couple hours it'll drop. So you can catch it pretty quickly. You can also catch it over at LandryFootball.com. But we'd like you to join us live. And how do you do that? Go to LandryFootball.com, click on Follow Chris on Twitch, and then it'll take you there. Join us in the chat room. Very simple to do. Bring your questions, your comments, your thoughts. Very simple. Also, like to remind you that the detailed film room breakdowns of all the games, all the teams, college and NFL, over at LandryFootball.com. So take advantage of the football season sale that we have going on there. So we're going to get into a number of things today. We're going to get into, obviously, the headline to me is Iowa, Penn State. What does it mean for both of those teams? We're going to break down the game. What did the film say? We're going to talk a little bit about where those teams stack up. Where they go from here is probably the most important thing that we need to get to. Also, we want to look at Ohio State playing a little bit better. What does it mean for them? How much better do they look? What's the future look like for them? Michigan State. Don't want to peek too far ahead, but we're looking at the potential, maybe the probability, between a possibility and a probability of both teams going 7-0 before they play one another. How's Michigan? Speaking of Michigan, how does Nebraska continue to look better, but still are struggling to finish? And so we will take a look at all of that, as well as answer all of your questions. So we will get through all of that, and we're going to get into a lot of the details, and we'll integrate your questions. I usually get to the mailbag towards the end of the show, but we appreciate everybody joining us there. So a couple of things that I want to get to is taking a look at the Iowa Penn State game. And I see Jason, good friend Jason, big Iowa fan, really good fan, very knowledgeable fan, join us. But get to the breakdown of the games, and then maybe I'll integrate the good questions that Jason has as he's joined us. And a couple of things in this game, pretty clear, that I thought going into the game, and those of you that listened to this last week, those of you that go into LandryFootball.com and look at the breakdown, I thought there was a distinct advantage for Iowa in this game. I thought they could turn Penn State's offense over. I thought that Penn State would struggle to run the football, and I thought they would turn the football over. Well, that happened to a point. But we all know what happened in this game. I thought Penn State, a little bit to my surprise, I thought they controlled the game pretty much. I thought they had a lot of success moving the football on Iowa, running it, having success, and I thought they were in control of the game. I thought they were close to maybe just separating away and winning it, maybe winning it in a decisive fashion that I never anticipated. And then it all collapsed. And so there are a couple of things, and we'll get to it from the Penn State side a little bit later, but obviously Sean Clifford going out of the game, that's not Iowa's fault. It's Penn State's inability to obviously be as prepared as you need to be, and it is very difficult going with a backup quarterback. But to me, it looked like Penn State was the better team until Sean Clifford went out. Uh, Iowa was able to, as they always do. Uh, Jason will know this. Iowa fans will know this. Most people that follow Iowa understand that there's no flash in Iowa. There's physicality. There's mental toughness. There is a stick-to-itiveness. People may call it slow. I mean, they're so Big Ten that, it is old Big Ten. Love it. I go back with Kurt Ferentz years and years since he was an assistant going to Maine days. And I actually introduced him to Bill Belichick. Now, just to give you an idea how much Bill Belichick, like Bill Belichick told me that, and Bill likes, there's a lot of coaches that he's had that's been really good. But Bill thinks Kurt Ferentz is the top of the heap of offensive line coaches. Now, he said Dante Scarnecchia. Okay, and Dante's a legend in offensive line coaches. He thinks that Kurt was just phenomenal. I remember when Kurt was interviewing for the job, and I can relate because I interviewed for a job with Bill Belichick, and it was grueling. And you get out of there and you're thinking, damn. I mean, do I need smelling salts or do I need, what? Can I get my butt off the chair, put my tail between my legs, get back to the hotel room and get to the airport as fast as possible? Because my ass just got put through the ringer. Kirk got interviewed by Bill Belichick, and he called me and he says, I blew this interview. And I said, hold on, tell me what happened. And we went through it, and I said, I don't know that you blew it. It may feel like you blew it. No, Chris, I blew it. I'm like, okay, but let's just hold on. Anyway, got the job. And I can tell you that before Kurt ascended to go back to Iowa, where he was an assistant, go back to Iowa as a head coach, Bill often told me that's be the first guy he would hire on his staff back before he was unhireable as an assistant because he went to Iowa. He has just put together the longest tenure of consistency that understands what do you need to do to be successful. It is an ultimate developmental program, and they develop so well, and they teach on the offensive line so well that you've got to go out. You usually got to go and beat them. I think they're beatable. I think they're very vulnerable and beatable, but you've got to do it, and they can force you into mistakes. They're unforced errors that you make, and then there are turnovers that a defense forces. Iowa plays the ball so well. Iowa closes passing lanes so well, they get you into mistakes. It was an impressive, gutsy performance in a game that they didn't look like they were gonna win. At a game it looked like that it was just no chance. But they did score 13 unanswered points against a very good Penn State defense. Now, granted, no help by Penn State's offense, but that's still a pretty good defense. I thought from an Iowa breakdown standpoint, we'll get into Jason's thoughts and questions in a minute. Like to go through the breakdowns and this stuff, Jason and everybody, as you guys know. Passing offense sputtered early. Petrus wasn't real effective. Then you start to see them put it together. Some nice adjustments. Brent Pry's really aggressive. They were able to figure some things out. Part of what they do is in their risk averse style, they will be a little bit passive about let's figure this out. Kind of like a boxing match. You come out and start swinging, and then you might land a big one, but you might run into one right in the jaw, and then now you're behind. Now you're playing chase. Now you can't be as balanced. They are more of a let's feel out, let's get lathered up, let's see. You start to see them put it together a little bit, and I thought Petrus started to play better. He had one interception, but they had two big pass plays, which you don't see out of Iowa a lot, but they can be sneaky good with that. And the 42-yard one to Keegan Johnson put him in the red zone in the fourth quarter, and Regani's go ahead, and that was the difference. There's just a couple of plays that they turn to, explosive plays that are just the difference in the games that they play. Now, the run game did not have a lot of good moments, and but there were some timely runs. I thought Goodson, had a look. It wasn't a great overall game, but Ivory Kelly Martin had 5 carries, 15 yards. Um, Look, Goodson has only had one game in which they've run for over 100 yards. Um, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing some issues. And Jason asked, why was Iowa's running game struggling the football? Um, is the zone blocking scheme no longer working? No, the zone blocking scheme is fine. While they've got good center play, they are not as good on the offensive line in terms of their ability in the run game to establish the line of scrimmage. And a lot of it is timing on the zone blocking. Look, the zone blocking is what makes them good because they don't get the best players. They teach the best technique and they work the angles and they work the technique and they work the leverage the best. You will see them get better. I think, based upon history, and I've got a lot of history seeing it, I think they'll get better and better. But the reason why they're not is they're a little bit off. They're a little bit off with their timing, and against good fronts and against good defenses, aggressive defenses, they'll beat them to the punch a little bit. And so a lot of what they're not able to do is they're not able to get into position quick enough with the right technique to have the normal success that they do. So we're not seeing the consistent success. And what you try to do against Iowa, if you're defending Iowa, what would you do against them? Well, you're going to force them to the air, and you're going to take your chances. If you've got the ability to match up, we're going to take away the run because that's what Iowa wants to do. That's how they want to complement their defense. So we're going to go in that direction. So I think they're seeing against good fronts, they're having more difficulty. It's exposing the lack of timing and rhythm in their run blocking, which there is that, particularly in zone schemes. Look, they are not going to survive on anything other than the zone scheme because they don't have the elite overall talent throughout year in and year out to be a good man blocking team. And a lot of what they do is obviously their backs, while not great, they're always good vision backs that can cut back. And so, listen, I'm with you there, Jason. They're not, I think you mentioned some of the play calling, some of the youth. Youth is a part of the inexperience in playing together. Play calling, not so much of the issue. I think Brian has done a really good job on that side of the ball. Brian Ferentz, Kurt's son, makes me old since he was a kid. Yesterday, it seemed like. But I think he's done a pretty good job. He's got a pretty good handle on it. I think that they really do a good job of taking what the defense will give them. So I think they're pretty good with recognition, front recognition, and coverage recognition to get into the right play. Look, I'm going to tell you, to Jason, all the Iowa fans, I don't. I think this is a really good Iowa team. I think they live off their defense. I don't think they're special in any way on offense. I don't think that they're They can go out and win some games against certain opponents depending on the defensive structure that they play. But I don't know. Like, for example, I don't know how they're going to do this week against Purdue's defense, which Purdue's defense has actually played pretty well. I suspect they're going to do better than they did against Penn State because I think Penn State's better and even more aggressive defensively. And I don't think Purdue's offense can do anything. So, but I don't think this is a special Iowa offense. I think they deserve, credit. Um, we're going to get into the rest of the breakdown and talk about the overall team. But, like, I think the team's really good. I think the schedule's favorable. I think the defense and how they play schematically on defense and how they play in the secondary is exceptional. But I don't see them being a great team that could do damage if they get into the playoffs. But more on that later. Um, the pass defense, um, Clifford had the two interceptions himself. So let's not say that all went to hell in a handbasket for Penn State because Clifford let it did. But Clifford still made some mistakes too. And we'll never know what would have happened, although it appeared to me that they were moving the football a lot better with Clifford overall. And the chances of winning that game were certainly a lot better for Penn State. But I thought Clifford, outside of the two picks, he settled and was throwing the football pretty well. He had like 15 for 25, and he really made a couple of tough throws inside tight windows that was pretty impressive that a lot of guys don't get away with. But then the injury went down, and then it took place, and they couldn't find success through the air with Robertson, and there was never any chance. So I thought run defense, um, running game for Penn State, which has struggled all year. I thought Iowa did a really good job. I think Iowa's front, by the way, doesn't get enough credit. I think their 4 and 5 man pressures are really good. I think they play off blocks very well. Mobility gave Iowa some issues, so mobile quarterbacks will give them some trouble. Um, Clifford was the leading rusher, though, and that's one of the issues if you got a mobile quarterback against a really solid gap control, well orchestrated defense. Forcing that defense to play an extra gap with the quarterback in the run game will give them some trouble. But none of the guys, I mean, the backs, Noah Kane didn't do much. Kevon Lee didn't do a whole lot. I mean, they averaged 3 yards a carry. It wasn't anything overly special. Now, the other thing that they don't get a lot of credit for in Iowa is a special team is winning. It was nearly perfect. Torrey Taylor was outstanding. I mean, 6 of them landed inside the 20. So you're making them go length of the field. That's very, very difficult. The Gunners are some of the best in college football. Their punt coverage is outstanding. Um, Roberts and Kelly Martin came up with big plays. They flipped the field. Shudak, as you know, had field goals of 34, 48, 36. I mean, look, they're winning by getting some field goals, playing good defense, and then finding a way to just beat you. I just think this is a well-coached team, and the finished product is really, really good. Um, I do think, going back to the play calling, when I looked at it and looked at the film grade, I thought that Brian Ferentz um, made some nice adjustments as he was getting a feel for what Penn State was doing. I didn't think it was a great first half. They weren't clicking really well, but the second half, particularly in the fourth quarter, it did. Now, a lot of that is Penn State's defense is on the field a whole bunch, and it was a bigger factor, no doubt. For Penn State, look, injuries were a big issue, no doubt. Um, but they were not really prepared. And I know it's difficult in this day and age of the transfer portal, but their entire offense just went completely south. And I think and we'll see what Penn State can do going forward. But I think it puts Penn State's season in peril. If they can't find a way to figure out how to calibrate an offense with the quarterback that they have. So basically, it's Sean Clifford, and without him, we're dead. I mean, they couldn't communicate at the line of scrimmage, and I know it was loud. Heck, you practice that. You had 3 false start penalties in a row, 8 false start penalties overall. I mean, that's just you got to be able to snap the ball and get the playoff at least. Good game plan with Sean Clifford. Um, just poor job of getting somebody ready to play. Your backup quarterback is one play away from being your starter. They were not prepared there. Defensively, look, they held Iowa to 23. This is not a juggernaut Iowa offense. But you know what? If you hold a team to 23 points, and I think the average starting field position, if you own 37, that's getting it done. Penn State, with all their turnovers, their complete collapse, we're still talking about a 3-point game. So this tells me a lot about where Penn State was in terms of their ability to handle the injury, but it also tells me about Iowa's limitations in terms of going forward. I don't mean through their schedule, but lest anybody think this team is a real national championship threat, all due respect, wish them the best, would love it to happen. For their sake, I just don't see that. But more on that a little bit later. I thought Brent Pye and Joe Lorig, I thought the staff struggled in this game. I thought that some of the intangibles were real big factors. I think with not good quarterback play, but just not collapsible quarterback play from the backup quarterback, I think Penn State probably wins this game. Special teams problems, mistakes that contributed to negative field position, those are all things that I think really cost them. So, really bad performance. What does this do for Penn State going forward? They get a bye. They get Illinois. They got to figure some things out offensively. They really do. For Iowa, look, Purdue brings some challenges, but a game they should win. Get a bye week then. They've got Wisconsin. And I know Wisconsin's not playing well. At Wisconsin, look, if you're not going to have a lot of points, if you're not going to be able to score enough points, every game is going to be close, and it's going to have to be won by the defense. I certainly would favor them against Wisconsin because Wisconsin can't throw the football. And I would suspect Wisconsin's going to turn the football over. And again, Iowa, I expect them to win on field position and defense, special teams. But that's not a given. This is not an Iowa team that can be off one day on their special teams or defense, or if they can't force turnovers, if they can't force field position, they could go down to Wisconsin or Minnesota. There's no question. But I certainly like their chances. Don't like the way Northwestern is playing, but although they're playing better, and I don't think Illinois is a real factor. But I do think that Wisconsin, Minnesota, and at Nebraska Friday are all teams that can challenge Iowa. I don't know if anyone's going to beat them. I think Iowa should be favored, and there's a great chance they go unbeaten. I love what I see in Iowa, but I sure would feel more comfortable in them if they were better in the running game, which Jason and I just talked about. And I'd see a little bit more explosiveness when they have to in the pass game. They're going to be risk averse, so they don't need to win by a bunch of margins or anything like that. It's just what are you going to do defensively if you can't have you're playing really good teams, playoff caliber teams? Um, how are you going to hold up? Or are you going to be able to stick to your split safety looks against great run teams? Have to get out of it. Then all of a sudden, because if you become less than great, your defense at Iowa could be really good. But if you're really good and maybe you force just one or two turnovers with your defense, that's probably not going to be good enough unless your offense really steps it up. And I think there's limitations with this offense. So um, I don't know that they even get out of the Big Ten championship game. That's where the problem could be. Tony asked, does Ohio State match up well with Penn State and Iowa? Ohio State matches up well with anybody, Tony, talent-wise. Ohio State's getting better. We're going to get into that here in just a little bit. I'm going to get a little Michigan-Nebraska talk next, and then we're going to go. Jeffrey asked about Lincoln going with the starting quarterback. Jeff, we're going to get to that here a little bit towards the end of the mailbag segment. I do want to get into Michigan, Nebraska. Michigan was able to win it 39-32. And appreciate Jason joining us too. And Jason, if I didn't answer your question or if you got any others, certainly join us there. Wasn't real pretty. There was some bad calls both ways. But I thought Michigan got the benefactor of a few. It was a win. Michigan 6-0. Got a bye week. Then they got another game before they potentially go 7-0. They got Northwestern. And Michigan State, as you know, got Indiana this week. Then they get a bye. So both are going to have a little extra time to prepare for the other. What I see and what I saw in the game was I thought it was a pretty solid performance in terms of game control for Michigan in the first half, even though it was only 13-0. And it appeared to me, and I tweeted it out at Landry Football, that it looked like Michigan was in control of this game. And it did. And then in the second half, lots of credit to Nebraska. They came out. They really established a couple of big plays. They ran a couple of RPOs, had his own read, and all of a sudden, big play here, there in a low-scoring game. Looked like Michigan could lose this. But in the end, I'm trying to look at Michigan's offense. When you score over 30 points and you gain 450 yards on the ground, that's a pretty good day. And it was. Not real explosive. Let plays out on the field. And I'm looking at it, again, those of you that know me enough to know, I'm not trying to criticize the team. I'm trying to critique it, which is the difference. This is what I see, and I do it with everyone. And it just doesn't mean that it's, hey, it takes anything away or whatever. It's just trying to see going forward where you need to get better. I just thought I thought their offense was efficient, didn't make mistakes, which is good. It does make its share of explosive plays in the run and pass game. Cade McNamara, above average arm, good leader, doesn't make mistakes. He's a capable starter. Probably need more playmakers around him to get the explosive plays to go as deep as maybe some Michigan fans are hoping they can go. I get it. You're 6-0. And I don't see any reason why you're not going to go 7-0 after the bye week playing Northwestern. There's always that chance, of course, but should be 7-0. That's a good step. But there's a limitation. He missed a couple of throws. McNamara did. Sanford still was one of them. But he's what he is, and I know what Jim likes about him. He's calm, cool. He's now let his team come from behind in the fourth quarter twice. Nebraska and Rutgers. Now people say, "Oh, no, Rutgers, Ohio State dominated Rutgers, and I, I get all that. It doesn't. We're not talking about quality of the team on an elite level, but in terms of his being able to make good decisions, lead from behind, he's shown that. Thought the running game kind of broke out a little. They've got injuries to both guard spots, and so they stayed committed to the run despite that. And so that was a positive. On the other hand, look, and you can see where this is going. The red zone offense, um, that was the big issue. It was 13-0 that looked and felt like, a couple of times in watching it on monitor 3, I'm seeing it, and then when I went back and looked at the game, the tape, it's like, well, you're thinking 13-0. It felt like it should have been at least 20, 24, if not 27-0. Well, the game's over at that point. And that's how it looked, how it played out, except in the red zone offensively, they couldn't get it done. Therein lies the problem. You can play well, and this is a very good defense. Aiden Hutchinson is playing as good as anybody in the country at any position. But boy, if you keep people around, you're going to have trouble. The defense was on point, didn't surrender any points. But in the second half, they gave up a bunch of big plays. Out of position, I thought Adrian Martinez caused problems with his run game. They left some receivers open down the field. Big chunk yardage, uncovered guys. Down the stretch, I thought they overthought things. I thought Nebraska offensively had a really good adjustment period and really attacked Michigan defensively to where they weren't prepared for it. McDonald they did a really poor job. And then that allowed the big plays in Nebraska to get in it. And so it was a good performance there. Nebraska got shut out in one half from their standpoint. They scored 29 in a second. Nebraska had like 140 yards, 4.4 yards a carry running it. The two things that really was the struggle when looking at it and uncovering it. Nebraska struggled on short yardage too much. And the costly fumble at the end of the game from Adrian Martinez. Look, you can't have that. I mean, it's, when you look at the whole, okay, now I forget Scott Frost hasn't beat a ranked team. Ofer, it's part of it. You get blown out by games you're not good enough. But look at the games in which they were close. And even games that not against ranked teams, the Illinois game, I mean, you name it. It's the little things that they're not doing well. We know about the special teams breakdowns. I'm getting off that dead horse because I know it's got to be fixed, and I think over time they'll figure some things out there. But you can't have those turnovers. You can't have those mistakes. If you're going to play, it's like we were talking about with Iowa. They do all the little things well. You stop doing the little things well, boom, somebody's going to beat you. Maybe a couple of somebodies. Nebraska's been dealing with that for a while. They're not as good at the good things. The defense is getting better. It's not great. The offense made great adjustments at halftime, played well, was functional enough with the run, except in the red zone. Adrian Martinez made great plays, helped get them back in the game, but had a key fumble. These things, if you have the errors, which they do, it prevents you from winning a game that you very easily could have won. Again, I thought Martinez really did some good things. I've not been a big fan of how he's went with Martinez over some other guys that he had or could have had, but he's done a really good job with Martinez getting a lot out of him. I thought they did a good job scheming things up. You had the pass to Austin Allen. The real run pass option concepts were really good. They found Ramir Johnson on the sidelines on that other play. Fake. The wheel route out of the backfield worked. They had good scheme. It's not like they can't coach or they can't do things. It's coaching the negative plays out of it. Now, Martinez had some misses. In addition to the fumble, he threw an interception with a defender falling down. you had the throw to Falcon, a crosser that was probably a big gainer. Now, that doesn't go as a turnover, but it's a missed play, a missed opportunity, a negative grade on film grades. Those are the things that when you go back and look and see, man, Team A really is good. They may be really good. They may be ranked high in recruiting, all of that kind of stuff. But they usually make this play and make that play and do those things well. It's not enough, and we saw this with A&M Alabama, right? It's not enough to be the better team. You have to play better. And those are not always the same. And so when you're trying to get there, Nebraska it's about cleaning up the mistakes. The things that they can do and they can teach and creatively get in, they're starting to do fairly well on defense and offense. But it's the mistakes, it's the errors that are real big problems. I thought the run defense gave up some key yardage. So the improvements that I saw, not so much this past week. I thought Michigan was able to grind and get bigger and bigger chunks. And that's how they control the game. And that's what put Nebraska in a situation where they had to have the massive comeback. They had to change things, which is fine, but then they had to be really, perfectly clean to win it, and they couldn't do it. I didn't think the run defense was very good. The pass defense, look, you want to make Cade McNamara beat him, and at times he did. Michigan hit the tight ends on several plays. The checkdowns to quorum, they were really effective against Nebraska's linebackers. So they did get one interception. They did get one sack. But I thought he held up pretty well on most of his 38 dropbacks. And I think it's 38, 40 dropbacks or so for McNamara, and he did a pretty good job. Not enough job there. Now, let's get to it. Special team for Nebraska, because I've been so hard on them. Other than not getting Michigan pinned on a punt in the first quarter, it was an improved day for special teams. I said it. It was better. It actually helped them. The coverage units made tackles, both punt and kickoff coverage. Made field goals. They're not doing much on punt returns, but at least they're not losing the ball. Baby steps. Nebraska's still got a ways to go, but still in Atlanta frustration. They go to Minnesota this week. It's another big game. Then they got a bye. Then they've got Purdue in Ohio State. Then they get South and East Louisiana and finish up with Wisconsin and Iowa, at Wisconsin and Iowa. Ohio State, Maryland. C.J. Stroud's looking better. They threw 5 touchdown passes. Look, this Maryland team was gutted with the injuries. They struggled against Iowa, turned it over a million times. But in that, they also lost some key receivers. This is a Maryland team that's pretty explosive. They still make a ton of mistakes. And defensively, they weren't very good. And Ohio State scored on 9 straight possessions. And they're starting to play well. And you're starting to see C.J. Stroud get some confidence. Yeah, I get it. Oh, Chris, it's not a good Maryland. Get that. But there's confidence. You're starting to see Olave and Garrett Wilson against a depleted Maryland secondary. Okay. But starting to develop some rhythm. Look, they toyed with them. That's what you're supposed to do in a game like this. You're starting to see a team that's starting to play better, starting to feel it. You're starting to see Stroud get a little bit sharp. I think that's real positive. I like his footwork a little bit better. I think he's got to maybe take off and run at times, but I think he can be a really improved passer. The receivers are elite talent. They're starting to become productive, something they were not in the early part of the year. The top 3, Olave, Wilson, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, are really good. And they've got a kid in Emeka Egbuka who should be on the field, and they can't get them because the top three are really, really good. And then you got Marvin Harrison Jr. You got five guys that can line up, and they're just absolutely loaded. It's a loaded room, and they're starting to play up to their hype. Um, they could become a difficult offense to contend with multiple receiver weapons. If they can get four of those guys on the field at a time, they can really attack people some with the spread, get CJ Stroud out, move him, have a moving pocket more. They got some really, really starting to improve. Um, they're starting to make some plays in the kick game, return game. Um, I think they're doing, the defense is playing a little bit better. They're mixing things up. I think they're calling things better. They're calling it better because they're playing it better. They're a little bit more sound in their gap control. Like what I'm seeing from Matt Barnes overall. Um, you just got to be fundamentally sound, which they were not early in the year. They're getting better. Are they still vulnerable against elite offenses? Yeah, I think so at the elite level. But I don't know that there's a lot of people in the Big Ten that are going to truly challenge them. Um, I think the blitz packages, they had some corner cat blitzes that were effective. They attacked in the double A gap blitz looks a little bit more. It's starting to look like an aggressive defense that was more, it was always aggressive, but aggressive in a positive way, and that they're starting to play their responsibilities in their gaps a little bit more consistency. Um, Henderson is a great running back, using him in the passing game. Um, he was targeted in the passing game, going to be a big factor. You're going to overplay those receivers. That's why I say, look, if they can get a lot of three wides, maybe some four wide sets, look out. Some double slot looks, try covering that, and then trying to cover this guy out of the backfield. This team has a chance to get a lot better, a lot better. I know it's college football. You still got the loss at home to Oregon and all that. Right now, they're a better football team. Um, Maryland, on the other hand, was out Bennett and both Bennett's in the secondary. They lost Banks, early in the year. They could not match up against this receiving core. So you're down to the fifth or sixth guy going up against those guys. You know where this was headed, okay? So it was going to be a mess. The offense was missing some pieces. Demas Jr., then the replacement, Jason Jones, was carted off the field with a leg injury. So they couldn't get anything done offensively. Now, this is an offense fully stocked. Can be a challenge. It would have liked to have seen Ohio State get that challenge and how they deal with it. This they couldn't get anything. They struggled to establish the run against the bunch front seven. So that was really key. They had 56 rushing yards on 36 attempts by six different rushers. The average is 1.6 yards a carry, and they didn't have any creases to go through. Tolia was 28 at 39, 279, two picks. Both came in the fourth quarter. Nothing really there for him. Um, Maryland's got to go, for their standpoint, they've got to go into the bye week and try to figure some things out. Wisconsin got it figured out against Illinois, as best you can at this point. They packed this run game. They got things going, and they were able to run it against an Illinois defense that's just not very good. It's the first Big Ten win of the season for Wisconsin. Didn't think I'd be saying this on October 12th or whatever it is. The defense of Wisconsin's really good. The one thing, and I want to go back to the Iowa discussion again. This Wisconsin defense is really good. But we've seen them play in Notre Dame and in Penn State with Sean Clifford. They played really good defense, was neck and neck with both of those teams. And I'm not saying both of those teams are great, but they're pretty solid teams. They played neck and neck with them until they couldn't get anything done offensively. This has been a problem with with Wisconsin this year. Their all run game's not as good. They can't get enough out of the passing game. Well, they're starting to take chances, and that's where the turnovers are taking place. So I'm not trying to make the comparison, but I guess I am. You look at Wisconsin and Iowa, as Iowa's not made the mistakes. When they need to make a play or two in the pass game, they've been able to do it. Well, they're not great offensively by any stretch, but they don't make the mistakes. When they have to make a play, they find a way to get it done. Wisconsin is not only not making plays in the passing game, not only not running the ball like they normally do, and I know they did it against Illinois, they're also, when they have to throw it, they're turning it over. So all of a sudden, one possession game becomes a 4 possession loss, and it looks like they're getting creamed. But getting creamed at the end because they're having to take chances offensively to try to win a game, and they're ill equipped to do it. This is where Iowa looks a little bit better, a little bit more functional on offense, less mistake prone, and the defense is great. But I want to give a shout out to Wisconsin's defense. It's really good. I do think for Wisconsin, Allen and Malusi ran the football well. Again, I want to see it a little more consistency. Um, I didn't think Mertz in the passing game looked good, even against this Illinois team. I thought the offensive line showed some improvement. The offensive line was miserable against Michigan. But they came out much better in this game. They went with Logan Bruss at right tackle. Um, excuse me, Tanner Bortolini, who replaced Logan Bruss, who didn't travel at right tackle. And I thought they opened up the game pretty well, and then to kick a field goal. And so I think there's still a lot of mistakes because of the fact that they're having to take chances and do things that are a little bit out of their norm, but they're able to get a win. And we've got more of the breakdowns over at LandryFootball.com of this game and all the games with all the grades, all the players. We got it for you there. You can check it out. Illinois, couple of thoughts on them. And again, the breakdowns, no real balance in the game. I think probably need to look to see what they can do. Maybe get a younger guy in at quarterback, try to do some things going to be interesting. I don't know that we need to see where they go. I would like to see them play Samari Collier a little bit. He's the talented Texas quarterback who he's got a really good arm and can move around the field pretty well. They have no playmaking element. They need to figure that out because Brandon Peters is not the answer. Arthur Sitkowski is not the answer. Now, they don't play well enough around them to give them a chance. I get it. But you got to try to find a way to make a play. They've got to fix this on recruiting. And, I thought the defense hung in there for the most part and did a pretty solid job. We talked about Michigan. Michigan State's coming around the corner. Michigan State was able to handle Rutgers. And by comparison, and again, I don't like the transitive property comparison, but they handled Rutgers solidly as opposed to, say, Michigan, who kind of had to take care of it late. Kenneth Walker is outstanding. The quarterback plays outstanding. Michigan State's playing a little bit better right now, I think, overall. Quarterback plays really good, making some big-time plays. I think with Kenneth Walker is a great back. I mean, great as in could play anywhere and be a factor anywhere type of back. I think the receivers have done a good job. I have said it before, this Michigan State team is bringing back a lot of people and the super seniors and all that has made a huge difference to this team. Offensive line was pretty solid, I thought. Defensively, the group played pretty well. Didn't have the same consistency, but there were flashes. The redshirt freshman, Simeon Barrow, played pretty well. Only one takeaway. He's the kid they signed, the undersized kid out of Georgia. I thought the linebackers, they didn't miss, they missed Cal Holiday a bunch. He was sat out the first half due to the targeting penalty. Thought the secondary, played solid. It's not a great secondary. Special teams were sloppy. So, this Michigan State team is playing pretty well, and going to be a lot of fun to watch here in a couple of weeks. This week, Ohio State, Penn State has a bye. Illinois has a bye. Maryland has a bye. Michigan has a bye. We got Michigan State at Indiana. I think we still see Michigan State looks a little bit better now. I'm curious to see if I'm watching in the Iowa Purdue game. Does Iowa's offense improve here? I want to see that. I don't like Purdue's chances in the game. But again, a close game, you never know. I'm very intrigued by Nebraska at Minnesota. Look, both need it. Trust me, as a coach, you always need it. I think Nebraska needs it more. They need something substantive to sink their teeth into, and they need a win. Rutgers, Northwestern, it's intriguing. Army, Wisconsin, out of conference. Look out there. That's going to challenge your schematics in your discipline on defense, but it'll be a lot of fun. Jeff asks, who do you think Lincoln is going to decide on who will be a starting quarterback? Also, cannot wait to Texas. Oklahoma comes to where it just means more in the SEC. Yeah, they were already chanting SEC. SEC. Look, I think that, what you're going to see, Caleb Williams be the guy. But here's the thing about it is everyone talks about how it looked in the game. That's fine. Oh, it's an easy decision. It's not an easy decision because you don't know how guys are practicing. You don't know what they know. For example, Spencer Rattler had to come in and run the 2-point play, a pivotal 2-point play, because he's the only one who knew how to run that play. So I would think that they're going to play this out. I would think they would up the reps and let it play out organically there. Because somebody sparks doesn't mean that the spark can lead to the raging, comfortable, fire that is sustainable. You only know that when you're coaching it. It's not that difficult a decision inside their offices because they're working with them and they know it. I don't know if there are issues with Spencer Rattler and coachability and whatnot. Not coaching, we don't know. I do think we're going to see the young guy being employed more in the run game. I think because of the offensive line issues at Oklahoma, we're seeing the threat of a run game or with the quarterback run game makes them a lot better. So I do think we're headed that direction. Whether that means a start or not, I don't know. Appreciate Jason joining us today and Jeff joining us today and Tony. Tony says, can you see the Buckeyes matching up with Georgia and Bama? Well, I could see them making it to the playoffs. And by the way, I know this will be controversial. I think we might see Oregon lose based on how I'm seeing them play. I could see them maybe losing another game. There'll be controversy about Ohio State getting in over Oregon with the head-to-head. I get that, but right now, Ohio State looks a little better on tape than Oregon. Look, I think at their best, I think Georgia and Alabama are better than Ohio State. Say if they play now, that's how I see it. I want to see the rate of which Alabama gets better, even Georgia get better. I know they're ranked 1. They say you can't get better. Yeah, you can get better. And I'm curious to see how better Ohio State gets. Or not. I mean, they either will or they won't. My theory. You either get better or get worse. You never stay the same. So we'll see how that plays out. But I would probably favor those two, Georgia and Bama, over Ohio State right now. No, that's the other thing. Where should they be ranked? Where should Iowa be ranked? I don't really care. Rank them where you want to rank them. I'm not as big into that because I may let it play out. I am perfectly fine with Iowa being ranked number 2. I don't think they're the second best team in the country. I think there are a number of teams that could beat them. But what does that mean? I tend to do it based on the film work and evaluating the coaching, evaluating the personnel, and evaluating the matchups, potential matchups. But, based on how the committee will vote it, how the pollsters vote it now, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. Iowa runs the table, they're going to be in the playoffs. I don't know that if they run the table and lose to Ohio State that they're in the mix as a one-loss team, maybe like somebody else might be. I do think strength of schedule will hurt them to some degree. And I do think anybody that watched that Penn State Iowa game, I bet even our boy Jason would say, Penn State looked better than Iowa in that first half. Look, it is what it is. Your record is what it says it is. But the optics of looking at it, trying to separate it, you have to wonder a little bit about that. And then you have to look at the rate of, well, this team played that team early in the year. Teams get better, teams get worse. Let's see how everybody progresses. But I'm fine with putting kind of where you want to put anybody at any time at this point. If I were to say line them up, who are the best teams? It probably wouldn't be um, Ohio State or Iowa, or anybody from the Big Ten this high at this point in that top two or three or four teams. But I do think that they deserve to get the recognition they have for the wins thus far. Check out LandryFootball.com if you would for all the film room breakdowns, all the breakdowns of what's happened, the breakdowns of what's coming up this week, and we'll start hitting that tomorrow. I'm working on it now, but we'll get it up starting tomorrow. The previews of all the games this coming week, the upcoming week games nationally. Kentucky, Georgia is intriguing. Purdue, Iowa is going to be a feature game that I'm going to have up on there, and probably TCU, Oklahoma. We'll have those up there. So check that out over at LandryFootball.com. Sign up for twitch.tv/Chris Landry Football so you can catch all of our shows. We've got ACC football and beyond next. We've got Pac-12 and Big 12 tomorrow at this time, as well as the Landry Football Podcast. So check it all out over at LandryFootball.com. Sign up for Big 10 football and beyond to help our algorithms as we try to grow this. Spread the word. I appreciate every one of you joining us. Talk to you in a bit, and talk to you next week on this one.